Okay. So we'll start out with a genetics problem, continuing from last time. So we have a cross between a man heterozygous for type A and a woman who is also heterozygous, but for type B. And the question is, what is the probability they can produce a child that is type O? Okay. So we'll start out with this question. A cross between a man who's heterozygous for type A and a woman who's heterozygous for type B. What is the probability that they can produce a child who is type O? And I will tell you, look at your notes from last time. Specifically, look at the notes where, look like this, where we wrote out all of the different ways that you could be type A, type B, type AB, and type O. Okay. I'll let you work on this for a minute or so, and then we'll check your work. See if I can take a snapshot here. There you go. So work on this for about a minute or two, and let's see how well you can solve it on your own. We'll check your work together. Okay, how are y'all doing? If you're still working, that's okay. Let me know. I'm just checking. Are you still working?
I'm not. I'm done.
You're done? Okay. Anybody
Me
else
too.
still working? You're done?
I'm done.
You're done. Okay. All right then. So, what is the genotype of the man? What letters do I write?
It would be the capital I with an A and then a lowercase I.
Okay, that's the man. And the woman?
It would be a capital I with a B and then a lowercase I.
Very good. So, when I draw up my Punnett square, here's my male gametes. Here's my female gametes. And so, what is the probability that I could produce a child that is type O?
Miss, are you gonna unfreeze? I don't know if you
Oh,
want us to see.
sorry. Is
No,
it
you're
still
good.
frozen?
There
Oh,
you go. Now we can see.
now you can see. Okay, thank you. All right. So, here's the male. Very good. This is the man. This is the woman. And so here we set up our Punnett square. So what is the answer to the question? What is the probability that we can produce a child that is type O?
So if I did it right, with the first square would be I, like the capital I with the A and then the capital I with the B.
Right. That's the first square.
And then I'll go to the one to the right. It'll be a
Okay.
capital I with the A with the lowercase I.
Very good.
And then under that, capital I with the B, lowercase I.
Very
And then the
good.
last one would be two lowercase I.
Right. So which one is our type O child?
The last one.
This one. Yeah.
Yes. Dang, I
There's
did
our
it
type.
right.
I know. You
Huh?
sound surprised. You sound
No,
surprised.
I went back to my notes.
So what's the probability?
25%.
Yeah, you could say 1 out of 4 or 25%. Very good. Look at this. And you guys thought this was going to be hard. Um, so here's the ones that we've talked about so far. The last one that we have to talk about is sex determination. And we're going to add to it sex linkage. Okay, so we're going to add this to our notes, sex determination and sex linkage, because it's easy to talk about both at the same time. So sex determination and sex linkage. I've mentioned this before, but I'll mention it once again. We have 23 pairs as humans of chromosomes. That is your chromosome number. Pairs 1 through 22 are called your autosomes. Pair number 23 are called your sex chromosomes. These, of course, have to do with sex determination, but your autosomes, they don't. They have to do with everything else, but they're not involved in determining whether you are male or versus female. All of the stuff that we've been talking about so far occurs on your autosomes. So complete dominance, incomplete dominance, codominance, all of these examples that we've been doing so far have all been on your autosomes. Now we're going to talk a little bit about sex determination and sex linkage. These involve chromosome pair number 23. This involves pair number 23. So you've probably heard, XX means female, which the symbol's like this, and XY, that is male. and that is the symbol like this. Okay. But what we actually mean is that at the 23rd pair, okay, if you have two chromosomes that are the same size, then you are typically female. The Y chromosome is not actually Y-shaped, believe it or not, it's just a lot smaller than the X chromosome. One thing that we know is found on the Y chromosome for sure is called the TDF gene, which is also called the testes determining factor gene. And as you can imagine from the name, the TDF gene contains information that tells you to develop testes. So it's interesting that even though we think of this as being male and this as being female, there's actually other ways to be female according to your sex chromosomes. For example, there's something called Turner's syndrome, and the Turner syndrome are referred to as X0. They have inherited only one X sex chromosome. So it's interesting that you can inherit only the X sex chromosome and you still become female. And so, for some reason, that second X chromosome is not necessary in order to become female. And what I mean by becoming female is developing the female sex organs. Now, these individuals have other problems. Um, they usually have a shortened lifespan. They usually have a short and thickened neck. They may have webbed fingers and toes, and they may have some learning disabilities. But as far as are they male versus female, they are considered to be genetically female. There's also called the super female syndrome, where you are literally triple X, and they inherit three X. Oh, three. That's supposed to be an X sex chromosomes. We're not sure why that results, but these individuals also they are female. Now, what about, is it possible to inherit Y only? Or can you get more than one X and still inherit Y? Well, there's something called Klinefelter's syndrome, where these individuals inherit two X's and a Y. Okay, these are female, these are female. These guys, they're male. And so you have to have, at least what we understand, you have to have a Y chromosome to be told to develop male, to be male. It's that TDF gene that tells you to develop male sex organs. And so Klinefelter syndrome, um, even though you have two X's, the presence of the Y develops into a male. So you inherit two X's, but one Y. And these individuals are not so affected as someone with Turner syndrome. These individuals can be completely normal in every way. In fact, there's an estimate, and I was reading something like 1% of all males may actually be like this and not even know it. So I don't know how good that estimate is, but I was reading that last week somewhere that it's estimated that 1% of the male population may actually be like this and not even know it. So it's kind of an interesting. Again, I wouldn't put a lot of stock into that, but that's kind of an interesting statistic. Um, is it possible to inherit Y only? So could you be 0Y? Could you inherit the Y only? sex chromosome? And it turns out that no, you can't. That's a lethal condition. In other words, a gamete that inherits only the Y chromosome does not survive. And so this suggests that the X sex chromosome does contain some information that's necessary for life. The Y sex chromosome, it's possible that it does not contain stuff that is necessary for life, but it does contain information that is necessary for the determination to be a genetic male. So the X sex chromosome, in addition to information about becoming female, has other info that's necessary for life. So you have to inherit at least one X chromosome in order to survive. You don't have to inherit a Y chromosome at all in order to survive. But if you do inherit a Y chromosome, then you are considered genetically male and you'll develop male sex organs. So for the rest of this discussion, we're going to limit our talk to, sex determination to just regular 2 X's for females and an X and a Y for male. But let me introduce the idea of sex linkage. A sex-linked trait is one whose gene is located on either the X sex chromosome or the Y sex chromosome. So all other traits are considered autosomal unless they are sex-linked. If they're sex-linked, then they're going to appear on one of the sex chromosomes. An example, the classic example, is color blindness, at least a form of color blindness. It's located on the X sex chromosome. Now, color blindness itself, it is a recessive trait that follows complete dominance. So let's say I use the letter C for color blindness. So the way I would note it is, here's my X for my sex chromosome. Capital C would be somebody with normal vision. And here's my capital X. Somebody with the lowercase c would have the color blindness gene. So I would have a female with 2 capital C's. That would be a normal female. And then I could have a man with a capital C, and then he has a Y. That's the normal male. If I have an X with the lowercase c and a Y, there is no big C in a sense. There's no normal gene to mask this. So this individual will be a colorblind male. So because he only has one X, whatever is attached to that X sex chromosome, that's going to determine that trait for him. For the female, it's possible for her to inherit one of each. In other words, she could be heterozygous. This follows complete dominance, so the big letter is going to cover up the effect. Excuse me, hiccup. The big letter is going to cover up the effect of the lowercase c. So she's going to be normal. But we don't call her heterozygous. Instead, we call her a carrier. And the reason we call her a carrier is because she carries the affected gene. In order for a female to be colorblind, she would actually have to have two of the lowercase letters or two of the colorblind alleles. So you can kind of see how this demonstrates both sex determination and sex linkage at the same time. So solving these problems, very similar to what we've been solving already, you just have to know, what are the rules, or in other words, is it a sex-linked trait or is it an autosomal trait? So we'll practice with the sex linkage. We'll use another example of a sex-linked trait, and hemophilia, which is a blood disease where your blood does not clot properly. So here we go. Hemophilia is a blood disease that follows a sex-linked pattern. A carrier female is crossed with the normal male. And so my question is, what is the probability that they could produce a child with hemophilia? And then I'm going to complicate this a little bit. I'm going to say, what are the chances they could produce a female with hemophilia? What are the chances they could produce a male with hemophilia? All right, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to solve problem A. I will help you with B and C. You don't have to make new, what's it called? You don't have to draw new squares for B and C, but I'd like you to solve problem A. I'm going to leave this up here so that you can use as a pattern to figure out what the genotypes of the parents are. So I'm going to let you work on this. I'm going to give you a minute or two. Just work on solving question A, and then I will help you solve questions B and C. How are y'all doing? So far, so good?
Yeah.
Still working?
No, I'm done.
You're done? Good. Anybody else done?
I'm done.
Okay. I am emailing to you right now the quiz. So let me do my last 3 little clicks here. Excuse me, my last 3 little clicks. And this is week 14 quiz. All right, I'm going to send you a copy of this quiz. All right. I'm going to send you this quiz 2 ways. One is going to be through the chat window, and the other way I'm sending it through Blackboard, because I remember that some of you have trouble getting things through the chat window. Okay. So looking at our problem here, what is her genotype? Or let me ask this, what letter did you use to represent hemophilia? And you can pick any letter of the alphabet. What letter did you use to, you know what I forgot to tell y'all? Whether hemophilia is dominant or recessive. It is a recessive trait. That makes a difference. So tell me, how did you solve this problem? What did you write for your female versus your male? How did you tell if they had hemophilia or not?
I just put a C.
You use the C?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to use H for hemophilia. You can use any letter, but this would have been a normal allele, and this would have been hemophilia. So if you did a normal male, what would he have looked like? We know that he's XY, but what would have been attached to his X? A capital letter or a lowercase letter?
A capital.
A capital. So if you put a C there, that's still okay. It's still okay, so long as he has a capital letter. What about the female? We know she's like this, but
An
what is
A.
attached? She'd have one capital letter and one lowercase letter, right? So if you use C's, Ronaldo, as long as you had one capital C and one lowercase c, you're still okay. Ladies, did you have something similar?
Yes.
Good, okay. All right, so again, it doesn't matter what letter you chose, so long as you have a capital on the male and then one capital and one lowercase on the female. All right, so our square would have looked like this. And when you filled it in, you could see how sex determination works. you can see that there's a 50% chance that they're going to have a boy and a 50% chance they're going to have a girl. But the question is, what type of boy, what type of girl? So let's answer question A. What is the chance or what is the probability they're going to have a child with hemophilia? Do any of these children, these probable offspring, do any of them have hemophilia?
Yes, right?
Which one?
The one with the X and then lowercase, that one. Yeah.
This one right here. This one has
Yeah.
hemophilia. So the question says a child, it doesn't matter if they're boy or girl. And the answer is yes, there's a 1/4 or a 25% chance. A 1/4 or a 25% chance that they'll have a child with hemophilia. The second question is actually asking you two things at once. What is the probability they're going to be female, and what is the probability that they're going to have hemophilia? So for letter B, we're going to look at only the female children. We're going to ignore these two on the bottom because these are male offspring. So when we look at the female offspring, do either one of them have hemophilia?
No, right? Because that one
No.
is over. Yeah.
Yeah, this one is like her mom. She's a carrier. So there is a 0% probability of a female with hemophilia. The last question says, what about a male with hemophilia? So for this one, we're going to look at just the males. We're going to ignore the females. So when you look at the males, are either one of these going to be affected? And the answer is yes. We already determined that this one is, right?
Yeah.
So the probability of it being both a male and having hemophilia is actually going to be 1 out of 2. Because if they have a male, well, it could be this kind or it could be that kind. And so if the question is whether they have hemophilia, there's a 50% chance of a male with hemophilia. So I wanted to point this out to you whenever you are doing your final exam. If it asks a question, there's a difference between asking if there's just a child versus asking specifically if it's a male or a female with a condition. If it asks just is it a child, then you can look at all 4 of them at once. But if they're asking specifically if it's just a male or just a female, then you ignore the opposite. So if it's a female, you look at these and you ignore the males. If it's a male, you look at the male offspring and ignore the females. How did you do with this one? Did you get letter A correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Good, good. Well, guys, if you can believe it, that is it for this semester in biology. That's all the information I have to share with you. Can you believe that?
That's crazy.
We're done. We are done. I'm going to stop recording now. Let me talk a little bit about the final exam before I stop recording. Final exam opens on Thursday. And Thursday is the 29th. Am I right? Yes, opens 4/29 at 8 a.m. So you early birds, you can start early on the final exam, and it's due on the 4th, May the 4th at 11:55. So you have several days to complete it. You're allowed use of your notes. You might need some scratch paper because there's going to be some genetics problems. You'll need something to write with, pen, pencil. You should not need a calculator. There is a little bit of math, but it's been like the math that we've been doing, probabilities. So you will not need a calculator to do your final exam. The information is going to cover from midterm on, so weeks number 10, because I think we took the midterm, so weeks 10 through 14. Information covers weeks 10 through 14. It's going to be easy to grade. It's approximately 45 questions. And they're going to be multiple choice. There's going to be some matching and some true false. There'll be no essay style questions. The time for that is over. No essay style questions. We will be using Respondus Lockdown Browser, and I don't remember if any of you in this class had issues with Respondus Lockdown Browser. Did you? Remind me. I know a couple people in chemistry did, but I don't know if anybody in biology did. Were y'all able to use Respondus okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So we will be using Respondus Lockdown Browser. So that means that you know, up here I wrote, you know, what is allowed, you know, cannot use your textbook, and you cannot use the internet other than to take the test, obviously. So you can't open any other web pages and look up answers. What I'll be doing today is I'll be looking through my gradebook to see if you are missing any assignments. On Thursday, April 29th, we will have a Zoom session, but I'm not going to introduce any new information. What we're going to be doing during that Zoom session is I'm going to allow you time to finish anything that you have not turned in. So any outstanding assignments. So I'm going to send you an email probably today or tomorrow to let you know if there's anything that you have not finished. If you want me to help you with your assignment, come to class on Thursday. If you want to do it on your own, you do not have to come to class on Thursday. I'm not going to take attendance, and I'm not going to talk about anything new. I'm just going to be here to help you finish your assignments in case you have questions. Does that make sense about what we're doing on Thursday in class?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, I'm going to stop recording because that's all I have to share about the final exam and what we're doing on Thursday. And after the recording, I'm going to let you work on quiz number for week 14 quiz. Let me stop recording.